some minutes, I will just discuss what is impact evaluation, when it is carried out, how is it carried out. So in the context of creating a background or a framework or a plan, like I said, if you're watching the YouTube video, which you will get for the YouTube video, you find a description of a framework, like a plan, a sample plan of an impact evaluation in the description, in the video description. So please click on the link, you'll find it as a resource. So what is impact evaluation? I mean, we carry out impact evaluation to actually understand if our policy, program, project has actually achieved its goal, its ultimate goal, right? And in essence, we say, oh, this is the only way, like, that you would be able to know what has changed, or if a program has changed. So if your country is, so for example, if your country is carrying out one of the most popular social programs in especially welfare countries around the world now, for example, cash transfers, and you want to understand what has changed, the impact of the cash transfers to maybe underserved groups, marginalized groups, people living in rural communities, people living in urban communities, then for you to know if that program, the cash transfer, has caused the change that it was designed for, maybe it was meant to lift people, those that are part of the program, out of poverty, then you need to do an impact evaluation. Yes. Also, it could be a program that is designed to strengthen the capacity of young people in the area of in digital economy, for example. So you might also want to look at it like, oh, okay, we want to know what has changed with this program that we brought into this country, focusing on young people in digital ecosystem. For you to know what has changed, if you've had impact in the life of those young people in your program, you can think about conducting impact evaluation. It could be also a program that wants to increase participation, women participation in politics, for example. If you want to know what has changed as it concerns women participation in that vicinity, in that environment, then you need to carry out an impact evaluation. So if it can also be a policy on transportation, for example, maybe public transportation policy in a country, whose key objective is to increase the number of citizens using public transport, for example. I mean, you could do an impact evaluation just to know that, yes, more people are now using public transportation, you know. And it could also be, yes, reducing the poverty rates in a community, in a vicinity, in a country. You could also think about it and say, oh, I want to measure if really my program has reduced poverty in this community. In quotes, I call it poverty. These are various ways you can think about impact evaluation. Here I say in terms of purpose, yes, it could be for legitimacy. What I mean by that is that, yes, people that design the programs want to show that, yes, our money is actually making change. What we have invested, the amount of investment we have made is causing this change in this area, in this community, in this vicinity, in this continent. So we say legitimacy, and you can think about development agencies of different countries all around the world. Yes, they want something, they want to show something just to show that, yes, we are legitimate in this area, we have been able to make change. Also, government of different countries, parliaments of different countries might want to also do impact evaluation for this purpose. Also, to understand what is working and what is not working in different programs or projects. That could be also the purpose. Also, the purpose of impact evaluation could also be, at times, to also glean if we're not at the point of impact at the moment, okay, can we look at if our program has met its own objectives, and in terms of outcomes, not impact. Outcomes, not impact. Okay. So that is what impact evaluation is, and I mean, you can think it in the different contexts that you might have known it. When do we do impact evaluation? So here, so this is controversial, typically 5 to 7 years, and I would also say more, probably 10 years, you know, depending on the design, the scale of the program, project, or the policy, you know. So, and yeah, you can, and I mean, we're mentioning impact evaluation, like giving it a timeline, because just for you to note that there are different types of evaluation that might have happened before you decide to say, oh, we want to conduct an evaluation that will allow us to understand or know if our program or project or policy is actually making that impact after this long time years it has been operating. And in this context, I'm using impact evaluation and also same as also ex post evaluation as well, which might mean 2 years after a project has ended, or 3 years after the project ended. In this case, and like I said, you can see formative evaluation, and I think it's important for us to understand that this other type of evaluation vis-a-vis the time you carry it out, like formative evaluation, which some of you call baseline assessment, needs assessment, which is at the beginning of the program. Then there's process evaluation. There's so many things that happen in process evaluation. You might have the midterm review. For some of you that do midterm review, you might have an annual evaluation. You might have a finance, what we call a finance evaluation, which looks at the amount of money spent for different activities vis-a-vis the outputs that that might have happened. In here, this process evaluation also, oh yeah, I think you can also put a box here called outcome evaluation, and outcome evaluation, and that was why I said earlier on outcome, not impact. So outcome evaluation, most times you do immediately at the end of the project. So you would actually see end of project evaluation. So perhaps looks at just the objective, if the project has met the objective. Now, note that there are two different things in program management. The objective of the program. So a project might meet the objective of the program and not meet the goal. The goal is the overall change that happens after a project or a program has been carried out. So a program, your own program might not have control over that impact that you're looking at. So, getting decent jobs for young people might be a long-term goal. Decent jobs, right? Getting decent jobs or income for young people might be a longer-term goal, in which there's so many organizations, I mean, your country trying to achieve that. And I mean, it's also one of the SDG goals as well. Like, it's a long-term kind of achievement in getting young people to have access to decent jobs. Within it might be that for your own objective, might just be to strengthen the capacity of young people in the area of digital economy. So in essence, you're theorizing that, when they are able to understand digital economy, acquire these skills, then they will get decent jobs. So that's how it works. And I need us to understand that. Then you might be measuring that as an outcome evaluation, So, and that's why we say typically 5 to 7 years. So some of your programs, especially for some of you in the NGO sector, some of the projects that you do that are just 1 year, 2 years, are not necessarily the impact of the program. Remember, somebody designed that program for long term. I mean, some of you work towards an SDG, and a sustainable development goal, and imagine that the UN has 2030 as the timeline for the goals to be achieved. So impact evaluation on SDGs will be done after 2030, but you do some work that contribute to that. In the context of the UN, the work you're doing is not necessarily the impact. The impact will be measured after 2030, looking at various projects, programs on each of the SDGs, but maybe in your own context, you might want to call it impact, but I mean, and that is left for you to determine how long your project is. I mean, it's a back and forth, it's not here, not there, but I think it's important for us to understand this. How is impact evaluation carried out? So when it is important, and I think this also applies to some of the other evaluation that you might want to do. Approach is very important. I will refer us to, there is a, so on a YouTube page, you have approaches to evaluation, and I encourage us to actually check it out. It's a good resource for looking at different approaches. I will try and see if I can pull out the Cloneshouse YouTube channel. And I mean, if my colleagues are there, they can also share it in the chat box as well, so you can visit it. So the one thing we take a look at in impact evaluation is the approaches. I think I'm able to get into the YouTube channel now, so I will just share my screen. So yes, my colleague just dropped it in the chat box. They're already different. So let me see, you might find one in the webinars. So you will have approaches to evaluation. So I think playlist. So here you have approaches to evaluation. I encourage you to look at this video. It has different approaches in evaluation. I want to see if I can grab the link of this. Okay, share. So I think you can just see where my chat box is. So the different approaches to evaluation which you need to consider, I just dropped the link for approaches to evaluation. You can think about an evaluation might use the theory-based approach. You might use the utilized focused evaluation. You might use developmental evaluation. You might use, there are a couple of them. In fact, we're counting up to like 30 different approaches, but it will always be stated by the commissioner, or if you're a commissioner, you as a commissioner needs to state the approach that needs to be used for the evaluation. And the most common one, which is the theory-based evaluation approach, would have a theory of change probably at the beginning of the program. So you will see you'll see a theory of change for that program. And it then means you need to carry out the evaluation based on the theory of change, like the change you have stated that needs to happen in the program for the past 7 years or 8 years. So it's important that you look at the different approaches, very, very, very important and key. The other thing that you will need to consider are the evaluation questions, vis-a-vis the criteria for the evaluation. So I mentioned criteria, and I think it's important to, and I think one of our webinars that treated evaluation criteria or evaluation questions. I'm very sure of that. You can also check the YouTube channel for that. So I mentioned criteria, and this is for us to understand that there are different criteria in evaluation. The most popular, the most used criteria is actually the Development Assistance Committee of the OECDC criteria, which we normally call the DAC criteria, where you have efficiency, effectiveness, impact, sustainability, coherence, relevance. I'm not going to talk about the criteria for evaluation here. Please check out this YouTube video. You should be able to find criteria for evaluation in one of the videos that we already have. So that's the DAC criteria that you need to have an understanding of. It's also important to state that the DAC criteria is not the only criteria that is being used in evaluation. So, for example, the US government by USAID don't necessarily follow the DAC criteria or use the DAC criteria in their evaluation or when they call for evaluation. So they only have some frames of questions, which in some cases might be related to relevance, coherence, efficiency, effectiveness, impact, sustainability. For example, you might not necessarily see relevance in a USAID-based evaluation, right? So these are things that we need to know, but understand that there are those criteria you will find by the commissioner stating that these are the criteria that we need you to think about in carrying out this impact evaluation. And one thing to note is that the criteria also is embodied by the evaluation question. So evaluation criteria, so for example, when you say relevance, there would be an evaluation question, or there will be evaluation questions under relevance. And I mean, an example could be to what extent or are the program activities relevant to the beneficiaries? That's a typical example, you know. Is there a need for, was there a need for the program to be initiated? So those are relevance related evaluation questions. So you have your evaluation question placed side by side under each of the criteria that you think about. It's the second thing we need to consider in impact evaluation. And I think the third thing you will need to consider, which is, so this is the art of conducting evaluation, impact evaluation. So it is the design of the impact evaluation. So, and what the design does typically is to tell you when you are supposed to collect data, how you are going to collect data, and from who you are going to collect the data from. I can see that this is the art of the framework of an impact evaluation, because there are different designs you need to think about. And I think I've mentioned quite a number of this in the last brown bag, talking about evaluation designs. And I think there should be a, so one of our videos do have evaluation designs, and I encourage anyone to take a look at, yes, so this is the evaluation designs actually. Again, I am recommending us to look at this. It has the different types of designs for impact evaluation actually. And I think in terms of impact evaluation, we think about high validity designs that give you high validity. That is, designs that reduces bias, that is as close to give you what has really changed typically. And that is where you have randomized evaluations. And I mentioned it in the last brown bag. So please check out the video, the last video in the last brown bag. I think I talked a lot about it. I just dropped a link on evaluation designs. You can check it out. So one design that is typical of impact evaluation is the randomized evaluations. And I mentioned that it's being used by JPAL at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US, all across the world, impact evaluation. So that's one design, randomized. Some call it randomized control trials. It is a method in which you will collect data at the beginning of the program and at the end of the program. And you don't just, the units you collect it from is from a control group and a treatment group. A treatment group is those that are part of the program. If you want to strengthen skills of young people in digital economy, so what that means is you need to collect the status of those young people that are within your program. Then you would have a control group, which are those that will not participate in the program at all, but must be of the same characteristics, like from the same area, community, have the same,
so let's enter, let's quickly enter.
About data.
Yes, you know, but I'm just.
So it's important to know that as one type of design. Another design is the pre-test, post-test, whereby you don't have a control group. You just have those that are part of the program. You administer either a survey, a test for them at the beginning of the program, and you administer at the end. So it might be 7 years, right? For you to understand what has changed in their life, skill set, behavior, you know, and what they are benefiting at the moment, you know, in the long term. So you have pre-test, post-test. You could also have longitudinal kind of design whereby you collect data annually. So if an impact evaluation was designed to be done after 7 years, it means that in longitudinal, you want to be collecting data like every year. And this is almost like a developmental evaluation approach also. So like you collect the data every year from the program participants. Some people can do a mix of a randomized evaluation with a longitudinal evaluation. So which means that you will be collecting data from the control participants and the treatment participants every year, annually for the 7 years. Requires a whole lot of resource. And you could also have a design whereby you don't collect data at the beginning of the program. The program ends, the women groups have participated in several activities to strengthen their, to increase their participation in politics for the last 7 years. All you just do in that design is to say, okay, let's do impact evaluation on the 8th year. So which is you collecting data at one point in time, at the end of the program. So this type of design that I just mentioned is actually the most used type of design in impact evaluation. So you wait till 7 years, even though, recently because of several arguments, how do you wait 7 years before you collect data? But also remember that there is formative evaluation, there will be midterm evaluation, there could be process monitoring across, all those data have been gathered. So you can actually wait 7 years and then use those data that have been collected all through, then do collect data on your own in the 8th year to actually know if the program has actually caused a change or not. So we call that the ex-post design. And like I said, is the most used, if not recently, where you have JPAL doing a whole lot of randomized evaluations across the world. But the ex-post design evaluation is the most used across the world. Let me stop share at this moment and go back to my presentation. Just trying to read. So you have your when, how, and which is very important. And in a framework, what this just do is put questions, your questions on one column. It puts your design in another column when you will collect data, how you're going to collect the data, how is the method, you can think about the instrument also. Then you can think about your data source as which. So what's the data source? Who is going to be part of the evaluation, and where are they? Is it school? Is it going to be a school, the PhD, or individuals is what you would focus on, So these are important things you need to think about when carrying out evaluation. In summary, I mentioned the approach is very, very important. You need to think about the approach, evaluation questions, and the criteria to be used, place side by side, then the design, which is when are you going to collect the data, how you will collect it, and from which unit are you going to collect or gather data from. It is on that note I would like to wrap up this today. I encourage us, so there's a reference here, please. Impact evaluation in practice, it has different types of designs that you can make use of. So, and I encourage us to actually check out the book. It's free online on the World Bank Knowledge Management website. I just posted the link there. I think there's there's a new edition. You can download it for free. Impact evaluation in practice. It's a good book that you can use to understand the different designs when you're trying to carry out or conduct impact evaluation. On that note, I'd like to say thank you.